Kennedy, registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and certified personal trainer, here for Kanima's Be Well platform to talk about two very important topics within nutrition and healthy lifestyle that are actually very connected to each other, but not everybody is aware of that. So we're going to go over some healthy eating strategies that not only support your heart in terms of cardiovascular health, keeping cholesterol levels in a healthy range, reducing stroke risk, but also healthy habits, like kind of how these same habits support brain health as well as mental well-being. So we're going to discuss the intersection of those, and most importantly, what you can actually implement starting today. All right, so let's kick this off. There'll be some participation as well, because there's, as you know, in the world of nutrition, always a bit of confusion in terms of what you read online, what you see in social media, and what's truly evidence-based. All right, so first off, heart disease, over COVID and the pandemic, kind of like most common cause of death, things sort of shifted a little bit temporarily, but sadly, we're back to heart disease being that number one killer of both men and women in the United States, and honestly in many countries around the world. So this is top of mind and important. And heart disease is known as the silent killer because sometimes people have a risk factor or something going on and they don't know. So it's not always obvious who is at risk. And so of course, it is very important that you talk to your doctor, that you go to those annual checkups, you do all the screenings that are recommended for your age group in terms of prevention. These are all critical, in particular, if you have a family history for heart disease or a number of brain health related issues. But anyway, we'll kind of get into a little bit more of that, but I can't stress enough, especially as we get older, we're busy and, everybody's kind of like, it won't happen to me, but, you got to get those screenings. So, and there's a number of blood tests, right? But we're going to let's jump and talk about nutrition. Obviously, that's why we're here. All right. So this is across racial groups, ethnic groups in the United States. We see issues around heart disease. There's certainly differences regionally and in terms of different populations with like what under the umbrella of heart disease is potentially, most critical to focus on, but just knowing that really this touches everyone. And the numbers are staggering. One person dies every 36 seconds from heart disease in the US. And young people are not immune to this either. You think about things that are at risk for them too, right? So we'll talk about things like excessive caffeine being one. We've seen some stuff in the news about super high caffeine levels in some commercial products and how that can really implicate young people, or things like exercising in extreme heat or not replenishing electrolytes that can put anybody at risk, even a young person. And so it's costly, it's, heartbreaking, and something that we absolutely need to address. And almost half of all American adults have at least one risk factor for heart disease. Age is one of those, genetics is another. You can't control those two things, but there's a lot you can control. So let's do a little quiz. I know, I can't hear your answers, but I'm going to give you a second to think about it. So first, let's look at these risk factors for heart disease and think of how many of these you may or may not have been aware of. I think obviously like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, we know those are significant risk factors. Diabetes and heart disease are very, very related. People with prediabetes, with type 2 diabetes, have a much higher risk of heart disease because of the damage those higher sugar levels have on many of your blood vessels. Excess weight gain. Now, notice I didn't say like high BMI because, it's really about looking at you and your body and your trends. So if as you're getting older or for whatever reason, you're finding that you're just kind of gaining weight, let's intervene, right? And so physical activity, healthy eating are two things that you can do to help with that. Sleep is another big one. Unhealthy eating habits, we're going to talk about what does that really mean. Again, that doesn't mean you went on vacation and you had dessert and a little alcohol that this is an issue. It's more about the day to day. But excess alcohol consumption is absolutely a risk factor for mental well-being issues, brain health diseases, like dementia, Alzheimer's, as well as significant risk increase in heart disease and breast cancer. And we just don't metabolize alcohol as well as we get older. A lot of that is hormonal. And sedentary lifestyle. Obviously, these also contribute to that excess weight gain. Alcohol, in particular, as we get older, is much more of a culprit in resistance to weight loss as well as unwanted weight gain. Sorry, kind of bumming everybody out, but we're going to talk about what you can do. But then heart disease, having poor mental health, so depression, anxiety, stress, untreated PTSD, these increase your risk factors for heart disease, as well as other brain health like cognitive decline. And the social connection is a big part of this, especially as we get older. They find for women, this also affects men, but some research recently for women showing that social isolation or kind of lack of a social network as they get older, like dramatically increases the risk of dementia, even in people who didn't have other risk factors. So as much as we're going to talk about, eating healthy foods, maybe doing those with friends or family or others in your community is going to actually make that healthy food even more powerful in terms of lowering your risk. Okay, so as I mentioned, there is a strong link between heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So I mentioned about the damage of that excessive sugar. It's very concentrated. So think of your capillaries. Those are like the little tiny blood vessels in your eyes that go to your kidneys, that are in your hands, that are in your feet. So you think of somebody who has uncontrolled later stage diabetes, they're at risk of eye disease, kidney disease, and like amputations, especially in the lower extremities. That's because those little blood vessels can't handle the pressure that that sugar molecule has in those tiny spaces. Another aspect has to do with insulin. So insulin resistance, even ahead of being diagnosed with diabetes, so that's kind of like your pre-diabetes, that's linked to high blood pressure. We know lifestyle factors, including high stress, right? So like waking up in the middle of the night because you're freaking out about things, talking to your doctor, exercising more, eating some of these foods we'll talk about can all help with that. And so we want to make sure also that we're monitoring our cholesterol. And, this is interesting too. So HDL is your good cholesterol. We know that goes up with exercise, and that's great. However, just like anything else, too much or too little, Goldilocks and the three bear principle in health, it's not good. So too little good cholesterol or HDL, you want to get moving more. And that's going to be important because it sort of eats up the LDL or your bad cholesterol. But research is now showing excessive high levels of HDL, which could be genetic. It could be hormonal and aging. It could be you're doing like a crazy amount, not crazy, that's not nice. A lot of exercise. You want to get this checked because they're showing an increased risk of stroke with high HDL levels. So again, personalized medicine is critical here, and you want data to show your nutritionist, your doctor, your trainer, kind of get these people to help you specifically. We're going to talk about LDL in a minute, but triglycerides are a type of blood cholesterol, but they're actually not influenced by like saturated fat and things that influence your LDL or your total. They are influenced by sugar and alcohol. And I don't mean sugar in apples. I mean like cookies, cake, table sugar, added sugars in particular. So reducing alcohol and sugar is going to help lower your triglycerides if they're high. And that's going to help reduce your risk of heart disease. It's also going to reduce your risk of diabetes, which separately in turn comes back around, reduces that risk of heart disease. And cognitive decline. We have blood vessels that go to our brain. And so they can also develop plaque or lose their elasticity. So all of these lifestyle interventions and healthy foods that help support your heart are going to also support that blood supply that goes to your brain. All right, you've just learned a lot of anatomy and physiology. Let's look at how food as medicine comes into play. So you could name this list and then we can kind of get in the weeds on like examples from each category. But these are the types of foods, no surprise, that are the best to help prevent heart disease and support your mental well-being and brain health. So fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, and healthy fats. Now, you can have all these in one meal. I'll give you an example. It's morning here. It's super sunny. I just had breakfast. I don't know if you can see my green smoothie. Okay, so I made a smoothie. I put some mango in it and a little banana. So check on the fruit. I put spinach, that's why it's green. So check on the veggie, lean protein. I put a little bit of plain Greek yogurt, non-fat. That's can help. Anyway, there's a lot of reasons, people. That's another debate for another day. But I put that in, so that's got good protein. I do also like to use a little bit of like very clean, unflavored protein powder. So I had two sources of that. I typically put in flaxseed, so that's going to give me both healthy fat and lean protein as well, and whole grains. In addition to my smoothie, I do sometimes put rolled oats in my smoothie, but today, I'm going to down this, I made oats, like rolled oats, and I put blueberries, peanut butter, and cinnamon, and a little bit of unsweetened almond milk for the calcium and vitamin D. You could use kind of whatever you want. But anyway, my breakfast checks all of these boxes. So I would strongly recommend that you start to aim for, each meal in particular to have a representative from these categories. Now, I'm not saying you have to eat fruit at dinner. You could just have more vegetables is great, right? So you want 2 fruits a day, 5 or more vegetables, eating the rainbow. That's really important. So what are those top 8 foods for heart health? This is a little bit of like what they call it clickbait. Honestly, the whole rainbow is really great, but these are some examples of foods that have some research backing in particular. This does not mean strawberries aren't good for you, okay? Like they're great. So, but as you know, blueberries, and it has to do, the reason why blueberries and beets are on here has to do with that resveratrol, or that like kind of purplish red pigment, and the kind of nitric oxide supporting nutrients that are unique to these foods. And they can really help oxygenate the blood. So great for athletes, but also really helpful for blood pressure. So beets, you can juice them, you can roast them. There's a lot of great applications. Walnuts, we know, are good for your brain as well as for your heart, and they have that fiber. They also have that protein, healthy fat, but they have the plant-based omega-3. Oats, I just mentioned, so they are helpful. The low-carb diets omit a lot of things. So 2 on this list, right? Probably 3, honestly, if not more, on this chart right here. And so you'd kind of be doing yourself a bit of a disservice there. The oats have a type of soluble fiber that when you consume it, it makes, excuse me, what's called short chain fatty acids in your large intestine. And those get reabsorbed into your blood, and they go to your liver, which is the organ that makes cholesterol in our body. And they say, hey, we have enough cholesterol. You don't need to make as much. So you just learned another bit of science. But there's a direct way that having fiber, but specifically soluble fiber, or like now we call it prebiotic fiber. That's the other piece here. The foods that are supportive of your microbiome, so things like oats and chickpeas that have that prebiotic fiber, they're going to fuel a healthy microbiome or bacteria in your gut. And in turn, that is shown to travel through what's called the vagus nerve and send some messages straight to your brain from your gut that support mental well-being. So again, these are intertwined outcomes to behave certain specific eating habits. So chickpeas, another great thing you can add in. I have a friend that puts them in her smoothie. Haven't actually done that yet, but it's interesting. You can make brownies with chickpeas, right? You could do all kinds of fun things. Pumpkin seeds, like the walnuts, also have plant-based omega-3. Extra virgin olive oil is a great one for both brain health and heart health. And tofu has health claims because there's enough research showing the benefits of soy for heart health. And also tofu is a very lean plant-based protein. All right, now let's move on. I already mentioned eating the rainbow. These are some key nutrients known to support a healthy heart, and these are some foods that are rich in them. And so again, that colorful rainbow and seasonality is going to be just an easy way to make it fun, interesting, and get variety and get a good variety of nutrients. So protein is very helpful for balancing blood sugar. We digest and absorb protein slower than carbs, faster than fat. So it goes in that order. Carbs are quick, proteins are like in the middle, and fats are going to take longer. So when you eat protein with your carbs, it extends the energy boost from your carbs, but it also blunts that blood sugar spike. And that's, again, very helpful in terms of your cardiovascular health, your brain health, because when your blood sugar spikes, you're like, or if it dips too far, you're like, it can be very, make you feel more anxiety, honestly. So lean proteins with your carbs. So that's why I put that peanut butter in my oatmeal. That's why I put the plain Greek yogurt into my smoothie. So if you want to have whole grain crackers, have them with some hummus. If you want to have carrot sticks in that mix, great. If you want to have like an apple, maybe put some peanut butter with that, right? So look for those combinations. When you have lunch, you're going to have like a big salad. That's awesome. Make sure it has a good source of protein, or if you're doing plant-based, probably a combination of proteins. Soy is a complete protein. It has all the building blocks for amino acids that you need. We talked about fiber in terms of cholesterol. Now you know why. Also, we know that eating more fiber does help with weight management from a number of different reasons. And these are just some examples of whole grains. Again, you can experiment, use a rice cooker, you can buy pre-cooked examples of these that are in a pouch or frozen, that are not considered ultra processed. But again, look for some options. You can do interesting things like make quinoa porridge, so similar to oatmeal, but made out of quinoa. Farro's got a great texture, so that might be an interesting alternative at dinner. And then beans, lentils, and other like legumes. So, we see split peas, white beans, black beans. Those are all really great for that fiber and for that protein, and some of those key vitamins and minerals. So healthy fats can reduce inflammation. Fried food or fats high in saturated fat or ultra processed junk food increase inflammation. They're like a yin and yang, or like mirror images of each other, and opposites. So one raises, makes it worse. One reduces, makes it better. So that's going to be your omega-3 rich fish like salmon, sardines. That's going to be your omega-3 rich plant foods, which we discussed already. And these are some other examples here of healthy fats. Monounsaturated fats are also great for heart health. So that's like avocados or avocado oil, which is good for higher temperature cooking. Olives, olive oil, which is good for low to no temperature cooking. Those are monounsaturated fats shown to help reduce heart disease risk. The omega-3 fats we talked about are extremely important for mental well-being, brain health, as well as heart health. Okay, blueberries. So we all know blueberries are really good. They're delicious. They will be in season very soon in many places. They also have a number of key vitamins and even some electrolytes like potassium. So they are certified from the American Heart Association as healthy. Again, this doesn't have to be your only fruit, but it's a really great choice. All right, so let's do a quick quiz here. What do you think? Is dark chocolate a good one for heart health? Yes or no? I'm not saying you have to eat all these things. Dark chocolate is terrible for reflux and gastritis. So again, you got to personalize what you're going to do. But in terms of heart health, the answer is yes. Dark chocolate is a great choice in terms of having some key antioxidants and other components. Again, a little bit goes a long way, and having, particularly if there is any sugar included, you want to minimize that, but having this straight after a meal is your best bet, because you're not having it by itself. You're sort of, in a sense, you still have that protein and stuff you're digesting to help reduce that glycemic or sugar spike. Beets, we did already kind of talk about this. So the answer is yes. And there's so many varieties of beets. Amazing. Golden beets. There's candy stripe beets, which are like the white and pink ones. You can slice them thin and roast them or air fry them to make little chips. You can buy roasted beets that are peeled. So you just open the package and put them in your salad or on your sandwich. But I would encourage you, if you haven't had beets since you were a kid or you've never had them, to go for it. Canned would be the least desirable of the options, especially since they're those kind of vacuum sealed ones now, and they tend to be in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. In ours, depends on the store. Sometimes it's kind of near the lettuce, like the bagged salads and lettuce, but look around or ask. Oh, this is a good one. It kind of depends on what day we're talking about it. But pretty much, you probably have a gut response to this one. This is a great example of the evolution of nutrition science where research has come a long way. So eating cholesterol does not raise your blood cholesterol. Say that again. Eating cholesterol does not raise your blood cholesterol, like eggs. However, eating saturated fat, whether it's plant-based like coconut, that could be a culprit. It hasn't really been shown in either way, but it's on the moderation list, or saturated fat from animal fat, fat in red meat, processed meats, or too much butter, right? I'm not saying don't eat any butter because fake stuff is probably worse, margarine and things with 1,000 ingredients, like a little bit of Kerrygold or some kind of grass-fed butter, it's fine, but you don't want to have huge amounts of that. You really want to use the olive oil, avocado oil. But eating eggs is not shown to actually raise cholesterol. Eggs are a great source of protein. The yolk has vitamin E and B12, both of which are important for heart health too. So again, personal level, ask your doctor if you have questions or concerns about this. You ask your dietitian. But we want to, the other thing is plant foods do not have cholesterol. That's another thing. So you're going to see potato chips that say no cholesterol. That does not mean ultra processed food is healthy. It's just great marketing. It is true, but it may not be great for other reasons. So is this true or false? Avoid spicy food if you have heart disease. In fact, the answer is definitely false because the phytochemicals or the plant-based compounds in hot peppers, again, can help to reduce blood pressure and can help to improve elasticity of blood vessels and just kind of generally be good for your heart. Again, if you have reflux or heartburn or gastritis or histamine overload, definitely don't use this as your way of eating for a healthy heart because it's not great for reflux. So again, you got to personalize everything. Now, what stands out to you on this slide? Because here we're looking at 10 examples of brain health foods. We've already talked about a lot of these for our heart, right? So there's so much crossover. And these are additional foods that can be helpful for brain health, looking at research. Green tea and even coffee. Again, particularly as we get older, especially for women in middle age, caffeine you're going to be more sensitive to it. And so I would say less is more. So a cup of coffee, but then switch to green tea. Green tea has a lot of brain health benefits. And if you don't do caffeine, go for decaf. Green tea is fine. If you like matcha, just educate yourself on the brand because a lot of matcha products have a lot of added sugars in them. So just look for that. Turmeric is a wonderful root that you can use in cooking or as a dried spice. You can also take it as a supplement. But again, supplements you want to run by your dietitian, your doctor. But turmeric is excellent in terms of supporting brain health, gut health, and heart health. Oh, and I'll say on that one, it's absorbed, the active compounds are absorbed better with black pepper, just, normal, a little bit of black pepper, and also with some healthy fat. So if you're using it in a stir fry or cooking, and there's some olive oil in there, and you've got some black pepper, that's a great way to go about it. There's recipes that you can infuse many ingredients. I showed you mine. Here's another one. Here's another idea. This one doesn't have the carbs on it, so you'd want to add potatoes with skin or some of that quinoa or brown rice or farro, something like that, or sweet potatoes would be great. And obviously this is just for inspiration, mix and match, but you can see how easy it is to make a heart healthy meal. So I want to thank you so much. And your hearts and your brain are going to thank you as well for implementing any of these recommendations that resonated with you today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.